Welcome to your Artsy Girl podcast. I am your host, Christina Carrere. This is a podcast about art, poetry, writing, and anything about creativity. Sit back, relax, and get your dose of brain food to get your creative juices flowing. Welcome to episode 26. As you notice, we have a new sound, new vibe in my intro there. I thought I'd go ahead and mix it up. I just came back from visiting my family up north in Connecticut. Just great to be back. I haven't missed a beat. I haven't missed an episode. I kind of recorded a little ahead of time so I won't fall behind and leave you guys hanging. Well, let me go ahead and introduce to you my next featured guest, Rae Luskin. She is a creative activist. She's an artist also and an author, and she focuses on creative mindfulness. She's a mentor dedicated to raising awareness of creativity as a positive catalyst for health and well-being. She specializes in interactive presentations, providing creative tools and strategies to foster self-worth, resilience, healing, and out-of-the-box thinking. For 20 years, she has helped individuals and teams discover their passion, purpose, and authentic power to become confident and effective change leaders and creative problem solvers. Rae, a community activist, passionately focuses her lens on improving the lives of women and children, whether designing artwork for Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, Ask Gun Safety campaign, or sharing her personal story of healing from childhood sexual abuse. Rae believes when we share our stories of resilience, people know they are not alone, and it creates a positive ripple of hope. In 2016, she received Woman of Distinction Award and was nominated for Beauty in Beauty Out Award. She is the author of Art from My Heart, a self-discovery journal, Stuck to Unstoppable Journal, and The Creative Edge, 30 Days of Creativity Prompts, and the Benjamin Franklin Award-winning inspirational book, The Creative Activists Make the World Better, One Person, One Action at a Time. She has a Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree from Roosevelt University and a master's degree in urban planning. Please welcome my next featured guest, Rae Luskin. Hi, Rae. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Christina, for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too, because I wanted to learn more about what you do. When I requested to see if you can come on the show, most of the people that I've featured here are usually artists and writers, and you're an artist. I mean, you know, you're into the arts also, but you come from a different approach, I believe. Like, you help people, I believe, with creativity, correct?
Right. I say I'm an expert in the area of nurturing, using creativity to nurture self-esteem, resilience, healing, and social change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different take on creativity than most people have. And I've used it obviously for business too, because creativity is such a gift for everybody. And I do believe we're all creative. And that too many of us have been told you're not good enough. Somebody said, oh, you're just not talented. And so we shut it down and we only think that it has to do with being an artist, meaning a painter or a sculptor, something like that, or an actor. And I think creativity is a gift we all have. It can be how a mom, takes their ingredients and makes a fabulous dinner, or somebody balances a checkbook or designs a computer program for their client. So creativity comes in a lot of different ways, but we get so hung up on the idea you have to be an artist, a writer, musician, something like that.
Right. But before we talk more about that, I'd like to ask about, your background, where you were born and where you grew up.
I was born in the Midwest. I'm from Chicago. I lived here my whole life. Right now, I'm still here. I went away to college, but I went to, the University of Wisconsin, so one state away,
Okay.
But I am a world traveler. I love to travel. It's been a passion of mine forever and ever. And because I really feel that you get so much juice from other people, other cultures, other civilizations. So.
What was your favorite place, or more? I know there's a lot of favorites, but your most memorable place.
I think one of the most memorable experiences I had was going to New Zealand. I did this when I was 50. I'm 69. I was a cool mom. That's what I told my kids. And I had a bus pass and a backpack, and I went and I spent a month because I really wanted to get to know the people and the experiences. And, I stayed at a hotel that was like the base motel, which is a little freaky, but I had some really wonderful experiences just meeting people all along the way, who were just kind and considerate. And I got to experience all different things. One gentleman took me to karaoke night, and then we sat fish and chips in front of the telly in his place. And I got connected to a local potter, and he took me to the art school that he worked, and I got to see his collection and his students' work. And, I love that. That was just a fabulous experience. And this was before they did all the movies down in New Zealand. So there was not a lot of commercialization at all. Mm-hmm. So it was they had 4 channels on TV. That was it.
Okay. Yeah. So, now, who were your earlier influences? I'm curious because usually there's always like a person or an event that happens that kind of opens your world up to creativity and art and all that.
Okay. Well, from the earliest time, I was an artist. I had Miss Rae's art school at age 5, so I always loved art. I won my first contest when I was 7, and I got to be in the local newspaper, and my work was displayed at a very famous department store in Chicago that doesn't exist anymore called Marshall Field's. And so art has always been a piece of my life, but it's also been a double-edged sword for me. Creativity also opened the door, and this I tell people this because it is part of my story, that my grandfather, who was an artist, invited me then to come to his art studio to teach me to paint, because he was so proud of me, but he molested me there.
Oh, no.
So art became this push-pull. I loved it. And I hated it, and I didn't even realize that when I went to college, and I still was an art major, I was in an oil painting class, and I didn't know about flashbacks at that point. And I had flashbacks, and this guy says to me, "You are a terrible artist. Get out of my class." And I believed him. So I walked away from art for like 12 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Eventually I went into therapy and everything. But, so that's why creativity has been my biggest healing tool. I went through talk therapy for many years, but then there came a point where it's sort of like, I made a decision. If I'm going to live, I've got to live differently. And I started personal development work. But my greatest healing tool was literally scribbles and doodles. One day I just took a crayon and I started scribbling, and like this red river of pain just started pouring out of me. And, I kept scribbling for weeks, and people kept saying, "What'd you do? Did you lose weight? You look different. You seem happier." And it just opened up this whole new piece of my life, because I knew about the beauty of art, but I didn't know the healing qualities, and that made me dig deeper.
So what are your outstanding projects to date?
Well, I'm an author of 4 different books. The first one was called Art from My Heart. I had an art school called Art and Soul Connections. And I had shared space with my best friend who taught a technique called Monart, which breaks down every drawing into the basic elements of shape. And then it's sort of like those paint plays, parties that people have today. But this was pre that. So where it's a guided drawing. And I used to teach that, but I said it's missing. And I started getting into the idea of process over product. And so I had this art school, and then that led me to writing my first book called Art from My Heart, which is a journal that I developed mostly for kids and families, to talk about using creativity as a tool, introducing visualization, meditation a little bit in there, and making a difference. So that was my first book. And then my big passion project that I completed in 2015 was called The Creative Activist, Make the World Better, One Person, One Action at a Time. At that point, I'd interviewed 100 leaders around the country. And since then, I've interviewed another 100. But, and I wrote this book that talks about how we can make a difference. That, everything that happened to me, I look at very much like, what is it who did I become in the process? What lessons did I learn, and how can I share them with the world? Mm-hmm. And so that was really important to do that. And so I love creative people. Obviously, you do too. Mm-hmm. And so I started interviewing them and seeing how they're making a difference. We talked about, what's your legacy? we talked about what's your vision for the world? How do you want to make a difference? Courage. Everybody's got a story of courage, and and their creative path and what they've done and the processes they've used. And I interviewed people there's a woman here in Chicago who her name is Mary Bonnet, and she's a playwright. And so she did, and this is my passion, is to end violence against women and children. So this just plays to my heart. So she wrote 4 plays on sex trafficking, and so each one was different and addressed different issues, whether it was the Johns, young girls being seduced through Facebook and things like that, all that kind of stuff. And so she is like an inspiration to me, and she's doing a new play that has nothing to do with it, and she's doing something on something I never heard of, and she just came out with this. There was a woman's Ku Klux Klan.
Oh no!
I never knew that, and so she's writing a play about it. So that at the same time that the Ku Klux Klan had initiated, they weren't violent, but they were bigoted and racist, and all that kind of stuff. So I love to share those kind of stories that have an impact. Another woman that I interviewed started Bajalia Jewelry, and she went to India and made it, work with the villages. That was the beginning of this, to create jewelry, and saying to the women, the one thing I want you to do is get your children, your girls especially, educated, because there's less chance of child brides, things like that, if they are educated. So those are the kinds of stories that I think are really critical to know that we can make a difference. One person can make a difference. Mm-hmm. So I like to share those. And I have others. There's the gentleman who he's a social entrepreneur. So he wanted to do something for all these areas where we have natural disasters. So he got like those big old, I forgot what they're called, but these tin, warehouses, and he provides food and water. And he has a model that works so that these places, because that's the thing they lack most when there's natural disasters, so it's easy to get to. So I love to tell those kind of stories, and I think that's part of my purpose, to share those, and as well as simple stories about. This is a story of his name is Tiamo, and he was a musician, and he was walking down the street, and he saw a homeless woman. He walked by her. How many of us do that so often? But he felt compelled to come back and talk to her. And when he did, he said, "Can I give you money?" No. And they had a conversation. She said, "What I could use is a hug." He gave her a hug. He gave her a card and said, "Call me if you ever need anything." And about 6 months later, she called him and said, "I hadn't been touched in a year. It made all the difference." Yeah. Wow. So I want to tell people you can make a difference. And on his side, he wrote a song about hugs, which became an anthem for a nonprofit. We all have something to contribute. It can be a smile. It's our attention. It's really listening. I know I have my own story of a homeless man in my community, that I befriended, and I'm so glad to say he's off the streets now. But we can all do something, and I think that's part of what I need to share with people.
Yes. So can you guide us through samples of some of the creative prompts to self-discovery and inspiration?
Sure. And then I do want to tell you one other thing that I am doing now, which is my current project. But okay. First, one of them is scribbles and doodles. I ask people so many people are hesitant. Oh, I can't draw. I can't do it. I'm not creative. So I ask you to tape down a piece of paper and then pick up a crayon, put it in your non-dominant hand, and close your eyes and scribble. You can't judge yourself. You can't even see anything. You're using your non-dominant hand, but it allows you to just start scribbling. And first, everybody just uses their fingers, and I say use your whole wrist, your own arm, and you just start playing with that. Then I ask you to put that crayon down, pick up another color, and then do the same thing. And then you just spend 10 minutes coloring. So that gets you into a state of flow. It gets you in a place of mindfulness, and it reduces your blood pressure, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a tool for all things. So I suggest that, and I also take it a step further. So if you are thinking you have a challenge or a problem and you can't come up with the answer, before you start this process, write down the question. Then apply this, and then start writing about it afterwards. So you look at whatever you colored, are there any images in there? What colors did you use? So let's say you use pink, and blue. So the pink bubble gum, blah, 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 blah. The blue skies made such a difference in my world today. So you start playing with it almost like an ad lib or mad, I should say. And so you can answer questions about whatever you were answering. It's just because you're actually getting away from the question, you're approaching it from a whole different view, that you can come up with the answers that you were seeking. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Another one that's sort of similar is I'll take a page of a magazine and I'll, especially if you're blocked in your writing,
yep.
And circle, just go down and circle 10 or 12 words that may, just caught your eye. Then start writing about those 12 words, using them. And then it will open you up to whatever you need to write about. But it's a great way, and it's a short thing to do.
It may seem like, not significant, but it can actually, these writing prompts to get you just out of the mindset of or the stress of trying to create something, just let it flow that way. And people have used writing prompts to get that going. And also for artists. And then when you talk about drawing in your non-dominant hand, that I think there is some kind of connection between the non-dominant hand and brain.
It does access your right side, mm-hmm. It creates more balance than in hippocampus and stuff. But yeah, and I think the other thing that I like to do is artist dates, play dates. I think those are really critical.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that we take ourselves out of our regular routine and just spend an afternoon doing something, whether it goes to a movie or you go to a coffee shop and just sort of eavesdrop on conversations or, pay attention. What do you see? Those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And I always say, if you can, I'm a grandma, so I don't have to do this, but rent a child. And because when you start playing with the kids, and you've been a mom, so their imagination is so incredible, especially mine are all under the age of 8. So mm-hmm. we're playing make-believe, we're playing dress-up, we're telling stories, we make puppets, we do all these things. And it just guides you and opens your heart and your mind and your creativity in so many ways.
Most of your clients, are they non-artist people or are they a mixture?
Well, up until now, most of them have been creatives, I would say. So I work with a lot of healers. Mm-hmm. People who are healers, like one of my good clients is a jewelry designer. But on the other hand, I have worked with an accountant who wanted to open up her creativity. We applied creativity to her business as well as to her personal life because she was so stressed. And this sort of leads me into where I am today. I call myself the creative mindfulness mentor because I combine expressive arts, mindfulness, and positive psychology so that people stress less, accomplish more, perform better, and thrive.
Yes, I like that.
So
I need a little bit of that in my life.
Well, I can send you this little thing on stress release that I got. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's taken me a little away from some of the creative activism piece, but it comes full circle because it's one and the same. You can't be, and this is what happened to me. I started getting burned out from all my activism work, and it was very painful, especially last few years in politics and everything else, and and it was just weighing me down, plus personal stuff. And I decided I had to do something different. And so I decided if this is happening to me, it's happening to other people, that everybody's stressed. And, it's stress from life. And so these same tools that I've used in other arenas are totally applicable for this. So, I'm open to most clients.
Well, that's good. That's good.
They're people who are curious. They're open-minded. They're willing to play. If you don't have a willingness to play, it won't work because I ask you to stretch yourself, to go beyond. So the accountant, I asked her to get a coloring book and leave it at her desk. And every day when she started getting stressed, take 5 minutes and color. Mm-hmm. And so it was really hard because she had an open door policy. And at one point she said, I had to close my door. And I said, why don't you share this with your staff? And she gave them all permission to take 10 minutes. She bought them coloring books and left it in the fridge. So it changed everything. So, it's like I want to open people up to ideas that help us serve everybody. And I do. And I so believe in creativity as that tool.
That's when read your bio, and it's like, wow, just wanted to pick your brains about what your approach is to creativity.
Right. Yeah, and I love to have people. I have 2 journals that I created. One is called The Creative Edge, and the other is Stuck to Unstoppable, A to Z journal. So one's all writing and one's all art activities for adults. So that's how I approach it. And those I sell myself. The only one that's on Amazon is The Creative Activist. But if people want to, call me or write me, I have a lot of free information on my website, thewinningadventure.com.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Well, good, because I will go ahead and, of course, share your bio and all your links there so people can learn more about your services and what you do.
And I want to open this up because I know how many artists are on your site. And I have a Facebook group called Creative Activists. Mm-hmm. So that people who want to share, because
I'm in that group. That's how we connected.
Right. So, yeah. So I want people to know that this is a place where we can share our creativity, our challenges, as well as our successes. And I think that we can all, I think that we, the creatives, are the people who are going to change the world. But we need to find each other.
Yes. And when you say that, so it's important that we create our own community of sorts, even if it's just online right now. And it really, really, you need that safe space to where you can gather with like-minded folks that understand the challenges, share ideas.
And I was so happy when you put this out, and I was happy to respond. And I hope to get more people. I assume if, they hear me, they're going to want to be on there. I mean, I can already think of 5 people who've asked me to interview them. They'd love to be on your site. So,
Well, great. Yes, definitely share. I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that have stories to tell. We need to share these stories, good stories, and that's it,
Right. And they're just so, and I think courage pops up to me. We need to be brave to also ask for what we need and when we need help. Mm-hmm. I think we hesitate, and especially, I don't know about you, but I worked alone a lot, as an artist, because I'm also a painter as well and a writer, and, and I sit here and I'm in my own little world, and I don't have that tribe that I would love, and stuff.
That is why I created this podcast, in a sense, because I've been working in my own bubble for many years. Like, I don't have community where I'm at, so I'm creating it. I'm trying to connect with folks, and the podcast, like with the internet, it's out there. So whoever stumbles onto it, and hopefully it serves other people well, sharing stories and helping people with their creativity as well.
Right. And you are. I mean, your interviews are so insightful. They give people an opportunity to share their work, which is wonderful, because we, again, that's another thing, at least for most artists that I know, they're a little shy about tooting their own horn. So, and letting people know that they're there and that what they have matters and that they're proud of their work. They are, but, we don't speak out enough. So I think you're giving people such a great opportunity to do that, and it's wonderful.
But how about this? Here's a question for you as far as, okay, so artists and writers are still creating work, but what about in a society that still doesn't really value art?
Yeah. I know I'm always paying attention to what's happening in the national art scene and who's funding, and when they want to get rid of more arts in schools. It drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. So when I talk, I'll talk. It's interesting. I have a YouTube thing. I think I sent it to you. I don't remember. But, where I talk about how it's the first thing cut in schools. And, art literally saved my life. And we don't value art. And so I'm always talking about that. And I think the more of us who talk about it, it gets known and it sort of resonates. And I do believe in the idea of a butterfly effect, that we have to create this ripple. Mm-hmm. And so the more people who talk about these things, and I've been into art in health more and well-being. So I've interviewed the person who started the arts and medicine program at Shands Children's Hospital in Florida, in Gainesville. Oh. And so I talk about that a lot, and I put together a PowerPoint that I am taking around to healthcare facilities to talk about the power of art for healing in a hospital, because they have found it has been incredible for the staff as well as the patient. Patients take less meds, they're sent home earlier, the staff is happier usually because, happy patient, happy staff, that kind of thing. And right. So there are all these benefits, and that means less turnover, more engagement, in hospitals. So I talk about creating space in your own life. What is your healing space? Where do you work? How can you create that kind of atmosphere? So I talk about that, and I talk about art as a self-care tool. Mm-hmm. And that it is really important. So I hope to reach out in different arenas to share this kind of material because I'm passionate about it.
We do need a lot more of time out and de-stress using art.
Well, I think too, if people understood that art was beneficial, mm-hmm. that would also, because we're getting out of the it's beautiful, even though I believe beauty and civilization are really important, that kind of thing. But if you start maybe talking about as a tool for better health, I think we might get more support.
Right. So in essence, I've heard of art therapy, and that's a thing. There's actual courses, I believe, and
there's all sorts of art. You can be a drama therapist, a music therapist, art therapy. I'm a member of the International Expressive Arts Therapy Association, which is multimodalities and stuff. So there is lots of ways, that there are people are using it to heal. I'm trying to bring it more to the masses because right. Mine's a therapeutic approach. Mine is, so I was speaking I went to a networking thing, and I was talking about, alleviating stress. So I had them do first a mindfulness breathing technique. So I'm just going to share this. It's fun. It's not sitting there and counting. So if you breathe in and you go and you let it out like a snake.
Uh-huh.
This is a kid's yoga pose, but you can feel how your diaphragm changes. So you get into this mindfulness state. So then I asked them to think about their body. Where are they carrying tension? What's the stress look like? Nothing major, just little, because this was not an in-depth therapeutic kind of thing. So let's say the babysitter was late. You had to drive somebody to school, those kinds of situations we all have, every day. The computer glitched, whatever. And so where is it in your, and I gave them an outline of a gingerbread person, so it's just an outline, and I had colored pencils on the table. And I said, now think about what color is it, what shape is it, where is this tension in your body, and draw it. So, and again, you're scribbling, right? So I had them do that. And then I had them journal about, and this is all creative, it's taking it in a different way. So what was the situation? How did you handle it? Who was involved? And what do you wish you'd done differently? And, this is all in 5 minutes. It's something everybody could do. And it resonated, I have to say, more with women than men. All the women loved it. A couple of the men but the women all came up to me afterwards and said, oh, my God, I felt so much better. Mm-hmm. That's using creativity. That's drawing. It's writing. It's everything. It's creative expression.
Well, that's interesting that you said the difference between men and women. What do you think? Why do you think the men didn't open up to it as that easily?
I think men are a little shy around, because I'm asking them. It's this macho. I can handle everything. Yeah. I really do. And they don't, I really do believe that. And it's a rare man who will be, let me address my feelings. It's like, I've got a problem. I'm going to push through it rather than.
So they would probably need something a little more intensive or a little dive deep, kind of.
I definitely would. I've worked with some men and stuff. And the way I approach it is we start with a vision. What would you love in your life? Okay. Mm-hmm. So what is it that you really want? And so we think about their health. We address their health issues, their relationship issues, finances, career, spiritual growth, personal growth, fun and adventure. And I sort of work with them to go through that And in each area of their life. And when they can see the vision of what they really want, then I ask them, are you living in alignment with your life and your core values? Mm-hmm. And then they say, oh, I'm not. So that's when they're more willing to do some of the other activities.
Right. Yes.
Because they can really see from that big picture, like, oh, God, I'm really not living the life I want to live. This is more important. I work, 40 hours a week. I wake up early, I drive to work. I don't have time for my family. I haven't had date night in a million years. I yelled at my kids today because I'm just rushed. And, so all of a sudden they're saying, oh, but I really want this with my family. So how can we do that?
Mm-hmm. Great work. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I will definitely post everything that you gave me, and you send me some more that you can think of. Hopefully we can stay in touch.
I'd love that. And if you ever want, to talk again, because I can talk about the healing. I can talk about a lot of different ways of creativity.
Absolutely.
and that are not your typical ways of creativity. So
I struggle with staying creative. It's not like I wake up and, I want to create.
Do you have a ritual that you use, Christina, at all?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a ritual that you use?
Yeah, well, I do now. With the podcast, I do have a ritual. Yes.
Maybe you could apply that to your work as well.
Yes. I mean, it all really is trying to keep on a schedule.
So what is your best tip for? Do you keep an idea journal? Do you keep, Post-it notes around, and you just put them on the wall? How do you
Well, it varies. I mean, I'll do Post-it notes, but where I get most of my ideas when I run in the morning.
Yep. That
is when it's almost my meditation. That's when I can work through stuff and ideas.
It is, the story of Thomas Edison and the light bulb. So he would take his naps, and he'd sit in a rocking chair, and he'd have a rock in his hand. And as he started to fall asleep, he'd write down whatever he was thinking about beforehand, and question or something about his work. And he'd sort of rock in his rocking chair. And then as he was about to nap, the stone would drop, and it'd wake him up, and then he'd start journaling. So everybody, I mean, I love that. And I believe in nature as one of those places that is total for inspiration for me. I call the Botanic Gardens my happy place.
Yeah.
And, I'll spend a lot of time taking pictures there, and that just, leads me to other things. So.
Right. And, I think a lot of people just don't have that in their lives, not really tapped into it. So if it becomes like more part of their daily routine, I think if everyone kind of did that, maybe we'd have a better society.
Oh, I agree. I suggest people take an awe walk. Just take 10 minutes every day and go out and just really take the time to smell the roses. Mm-hmm. How many shades of green do you have? One of the activities that I always suggest to my clients is take out a sketchbook, okay, and walk up the street one way. This I call my walkabout. So you walk the street one way looking for everything that's wrong. So you notice the dandelion in the crack, the ladies hanging out the window chatting to each other, whatever it is. Then you come back and look for the good, and you notice, wow, this is a community. People watch out for each other. The dandelion, oh, isn't that a miracle? It grew through the concrete. So that we change perspectives, but it's like we're outside, and we're really paying attention. It's forcing us to observe and see what the wonder is in the world.
Right. Well, I think as writers and artists, we kind of do have that observation thing going. And that's part of where we get our stories and where we get our images from. But still, I mean, like with me, I do have my dry spell. So, I mean, definitely you got to, keep being reminded of having creative practices daily. Yeah.
Right. And I believe that we have to put, like when I was writing my book, I put it on the calendar every day. Even if I only sat down for 10 minutes, I had it on my calendar every day. And I still have time every day, for artistic stuff, and like try and give myself at least 5 minutes. Even if I don't do an hour, I just start a new painting and it's like, okay, it's out on the table and it's like, okay, even if I take 5 minutes, but yeah.
Right. Or even start a new hobby or pick up an instrument. Okay. So I'm just starting to learn how to play the guitar at, I'm not going to tell you my age in my midlife, let's put it that way. And, so, and I'm like, that's crazy. Who's going to learn? I mean, who's thinking of ever learning how to play an instrument at that age? But I'm so glad I started because it's something I look forward to now every day. Like, I want to go play my guitar because now I'm seeing I'm actually sounding like I'm, learning something,
Right. Well, and the idea that when we do something new like that, it actually fires more neurons and keeps our brain healthier. And so that whole thing, it just opens up possibilities. And if you're playing music, and writing and all those things, I mean, they just lead one into the other and just create such an overwhelming, beautiful experience.
Well, that's why I believe multidisciplinary, one form of expression feeds another. I mean, and it's kind of like a holistic approach too to creativity.
Right. I mean, Steve Jobs talked about it. He said, I was so successful because my team had all these people. Somebody was a historian. Somebody was into this. It wasn't just computer techs, it was people from all different backgrounds because everybody brings something to the table then. And if we have to do that for ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, and then when we switch over to like, your job or whatever, corporate life. I think most people like managers and CEOs don't realize, we're all pigeonholed into the position we hold in whatever company. Right.
Right.
And like you said, Steve Jobs was like, everybody had their own interests and talents that they could bring into the table, not just that they can code or, fix a computer.
And that's why I think there's they did a Gallup poll, I think last year, and like 80% of the workforce is disengaged because they're not being creative. They're not being stimulated. They don't, and it isn't money that is motivating them. It is wanting to feel that connection. They're making a difference, that they're doing something that's important, that they're doing something that's creative. So
creative. Yes. Being acknowledged and appreciated for what you do, but
right, and you're still in a corporate world. I'm not, so
yes.
So I give you credit, because that is hard to stay,
and it's hard to stay creative and having to do the 9 to 5. And family and other obligations and stuff like that. So that's why I have these varied interests that keep me engaged and going. The podcast, guitar, whatever have you. I mean, and that's what I try to do is just find something, like you said, find something new and perfect it and see how far you can go with it.
Yeah, I mean, last year I started dance therapy, not to teach it, just to be part of it because I needed to embody, as I said, I'd gotten burned down and I needed something new. And so this was a new approach. And it's like, wow, I really love it, and it's opened me up to other things. And then I tried a new type of exercise called gyrotonics. And I did this because I opened myself to something new. And, this was a big piece for me to dive in, not just, painting and visual, but dive into my body, so.
Yeah. Wow. We definitely, I believe that our, listeners will definitely, hopefully can glean a lot from this conversation.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I know it's a little all over the place, but I guess that's who I am too. I am creative.
Well, that's quite all right. That's quite all right. Well, Rae, it's been great talking to you.
And I look forward to having more conversations with you in person and in our Facebook group. And
Absolutely.
I will certainly tell people that they need to listen to your podcast.
Yes. And please share widely. Definitely. We all need to support each other in that sense.
I will. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Well, everyone, that is it for now. Please tune in next week for my next featured guest. In the meantime, have a productive and creative week. Bye, Rae.
Bye.